You're back with SteampunkChronicle.com. I'm Emily P. Bush, Editor-in-Chief of Steampunk Chronicle, and we are with the cast and crew of Engines of Destiny.
Hi, I'm Hunter Kressel. I'm the director of Engines of Destiny.
I'm David Woods. I play Commodore Terrence Hamilton III and also one of the producers of Engines of Destiny.
I'm Rachel Marshall. I play Lady Victoria Noble, and occasionally I cater for Engines of Destiny.
My name is Arthur Hines. I play Professor Dieter Metz in the exciting steampunk adventure movie Engines of Destiny.
Well, thanks for joining us at SteampunkChronicle.com. Hunter, tell us a little bit about the film.
Well, Engines of Destiny is... it was started sincerely as a steampunk project, and that was actually the origin of it. We were at Dragon Con, and Brian Pace, the author of the story and co-writer of the screenplay, looked at some steampunk garb and was like, "What's this? What's this? Genre? Can we do something like that?" And I'm like, "It's steampunk. Yeah, we can do that." What we wound up with is probably something between historical fiction and sort of Western sci-fi. It has a lot of steampunk elements, but it's leaning more toward Jules Verne and things like that. But it's definitely in the Venn diagram of goggles and steam and white gloves.
It has a dirigible.
It has multiple dirigibles, lots of
multiple
goggles.
dirigibles.
Couple of waistcoats, couple
Yeah.
of cinchers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the Venn diagram, but it shares. I think it shares a pedigree with things like Wild Wild West and Briscoe County Junior as well.
Excellent.
Those would be steampunk.
Now it's funny. I'm looking at these faces on the couch, and I think to myself, steampunk is one of these communities that's really kind of small and tight knit. Because I know Arthur, and then there's we're connected with his wife as my editor, and then you and I met ages ago at a convention.
Yes.
And you helped me with a project a while ago, and I'm looking at the Clockwork Heart shirt there, and I'm thinking this is a family tree that doesn't branch steampunk. So what are you finding in terms of response from this tight community? Are they letting you in? Are they interested? How's it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not even a question of whether they'll let you in. The second you mention you're doing a project, the only questions asked were how soon can I see it, and if it's not done, can I help? Literally.
Mm-hmm. And it's not done yet.
No.
No, we're still filming.
Still.
Yeah.
And after we finish filming, there'll be a lot of miniatures and inserts and...
Post-production.
Yes.
We're doing everything practically. There will be the fair share of digital effects, but we're not doing a lot of CG. The dirigibles will be miniatures, approximately 36 inches in length. It's a really good size for HD video. We have a location that we were never able to find practically, so we built the set, the interior of the set, and the exterior. It's just a cabin. Is a miniature sitting on my workbench at home, and that's. That will be placed on a miniature mountaintop with miniature trees and a miniature path, and combined with actual footage of our one of our actors walking up the path to the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, the steampunk, diesel punk, it is full of some kamikaze filmmaking where you take over a set, you do it by hook and by crook. Tell me a little bit about your budget and how you're...
well, David may be
Half
able
of
to-
it pays that guy.
He's very expensive.
No.
No.
Basically, what we're calling this is no pocket or out of pocket or no budget filmmaking. Everything going in is just skip and save wherever possible. We're funding it ourselves. There's 4 of us involved who are splitting the cost equally. Basically, what we're doing is just everything we can find at thrift stores, everything we can get for free or borrow or just reproduce, we do it. One of the strange things we've encountered is that a lot of times when you want to film on location in Birmingham, which is where we're filming it, has some tremendous sets that are like from the era, the late 1800s, and would just look perfect. But they charge you to film there, plus you have weather concerns. One of the surprising things we found is oftentimes it's cheaper to build it yourself than it is to pay to do it or just to expose yourself to the elements. You get more time, to film it and to knock it out. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of the surprises, even though, I'm very cheap. I don't want to spend any money, but it's just, if you do the math, it's cheaper to build it.
You run the cost. The cabin, for example, which you think would be an easy location to find, we went across 3 states and couldn't find a workman's shack, which is what we needed. And we finally, it was more a time consideration, but after driving far, far north, one day David just asked me, how much would it cost to build this? And we went down to a lumber company, added up the cost, and it was something like $183 worth of materials. Our labor's free. So we whipped it out in our friend's backyard while he was out of town. And,
He's not going to see this.
yeah.
The good news is we've built you a shed. The bad news is we're going to use it for a while.
There's no roof. It's okay.
He
So
came home.
it's not a shed you would actually be able to use for anything because it only has 3 sides.
Yeah, we didn't bother with the roof.
So
We were house sitting for him, or Brian was house sitting for him.
Yep.
Phil
Yeah.
came home, and Brian had to intercept and say, Phil?
Because I think like even before Phil left, he had said, "Don't build any more shit."
Yeah,
We've already taken half of his
building.
basement is the dirigible wheelhouse.
But
and the other half
my
is
office.
the office.
his office.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
saved us was he has kind of a wild backyard, and this was on his patio that he was doing anyway. His girlfriend came out, and suddenly, the way it's built, you've got 3 walls that block the patio area off from the neighbors. So she's like, this is nice. You know,
I have to say, the person I'm most amazed at is not Phil. It's her.
It's
Vinny?
her, Vinny.
Vinny's amazing. She puts up with a lot.
She
Maybe
put up
us.
with a lot.
That would be us.
Just a whole lot.
Well, tell me, I had been speaking to Rachel a little bit earlier, and she said, her character came to the script later in the process of developing the film. Tell me about your character, and tell me about how she fits in.
Lady Victoria is very meek. She doesn't really talk her
Have
mind
you read the
very
script?
much.
It's the other secret movie you're making.
She's she is a handful. She is very independent. I think we were talking about versions of the female heroine in Steampunk and Lady Victoria. Kind of goes outside of it a little bit, just based on what we were talking about. She definitely has a certain.
So she's definitely not one of the archetypes of dowdy librarian, clockwork hooker, or she's wearing his clothes.
Exactly.
Okay.
No.
Exactly.
This is more like an aristocratic Emma Peel.
Yes.
I would say
Yeah.
there's also a 4th archetype, which is the misplaced aristocracy, and she kind of fits into that
Yeah,
because
there's a little bit of that in there too.
she's on the bloodline of the queen, and the cool thing about that is the way I kind of pictured your character is she's the global perspective, because in the same way that without giving anything away, that your relationship, the betrayal in your relationship is in the same way that you were betrayed in your relationship, that it was all a lie and it was subterfuge, and that somebody was using you to get what he wanted, and none of it had to do with you or your body. Sadly enough,
I have
much the world is going through the same thing.
You were sadly
right?
not objectified.
I
did a little.
The point is,
A little objectification.
he was doing to you what he was doing to the whole world. He
Yeah.
was romancing other countries to get what he wanted. And so when you're like totally pissed off and angry, I'm like, okay, so Lady Victoria is essentially the way the world feels about what the Commodore is doing to the warring nation states. And I should say the movie takes place in an alternate 1880s thereabouts, where there is no United States of America. There are still the colonies and the interests there, and the big players are, again, England, France, and Spain, and they're still at war. We do have a German Confederation, and the Terrence Hamilton, the Commodore, has a company that subcontracts with the German Confederation to build very dangerous advanced weapons that are sold as a neutral entity to the other nations at war. And he's leveraging his ability of getting technologies from here and people to build this to build things sort of ahead of their time, ostensibly because he sort of like meets out these technologies to the German Confederation to sell the breadcrumbs, but he keeps the best bits for himself, and his plan is to do something much larger.
And I play Professor Dieter Metz,
One of the geniuses.
who's the genius scientist, who is perhaps one of the most morally ambiguous characters in the movie. Not exactly a hero, not exactly a villain. He takes a great deal of pride in his intellect and his creations, and they're horrible weapons of war, but he really digs them.
Yeah.
Oh.
I do those.
I built it go boom.
Well, of course, the natural question is, you're still working on it, and what everyone's going to want to know is when?
You know, the biggest problem is, Arthur, you are from,
I'm from the mountains of North Georgia.
and Rachel is currently living in,
Atlanta.
we're in Birmingham. And it's nobody's fault, but because we fell in love with these two people, Arthur.
Yeah.
Rachel, can you sit over there.
Yeah,
It's a very comfy chair. Actually, she's in right now.
It means that one of the biggest problems when we have the larger scenes is getting the main cast together. And another thing we did, I like screenwriters like Joss Whedon, as everyone does. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to put forward, and one of the things Brian and I went back and forth on, was I didn't want there to be any disposable characters. So we did two things. We started to pare down our warm bodies, but we wound up giving every warm body in the movie a name and a character. And that does two things. When we get rid of our characters one by one through attrition or through graduation, they leave on their own terms or whatever, it means something. There's a little story there that's completed. The problem is that now we've got a cast of characters where when we do some of the combat sequences and stuff, Bernie, Jason, Brian, Rachel, Arthur, Dave, Josh, all have to get together because they're named characters, and it's not just guard number 2, guard number 3, and I can put hats on people and sideburns. And there's some of that.
Although
too.
sometimes when we're shooting inserts, we do exactly that.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. I've been like 3 or 4 people at this.
Yeah.
Like staying in the background fuzzy, it's like, yeah, he's that guard.
Yeah, but the point is that
The Brian gene pool is strong.
As long as you're pale, I can put on a glove. I can.
we've got like 6 minor characters now, and they all have when they pass from the script, when their story is completed, it's funny or sad or rewarding, yeah. And that's kind of where we wanted to go. And just recently, we had sort of a denouement where our hero TR.
I'm sorry, you have to define that because that's a big word.
Isn't that like a cruller?
No.
Doesn't literally mean the moment, but it's the conclusion.
I think it's a pastry.
It's a pastry. All right, that's the nun's part, right?
We at the Steampunk Chronicle do not dumb down any vocabulary.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
But we got it's not the climax, but we got this big fight thing, and it's
Just call it a boss battle, okay?
it's
Just
a
call it a
boss
battle.
battle. It's a boss battle.
Boss fight.
And the thing was, it was supposed to. I was going to play. It's a guy in a suit, and I was going to play the guy in the suit.
Because he built it for him.
I built it for me. It's not like, this is my cameo. It's like, you got to weigh about 135 pounds and be 5'9", and
That's my left leg, so I can't do it.
Anyway, one of the other guys, I wanted, the scene has a lot of special effects in it. It wound up being shot entirely in front of a green screen and stuff. We got a soundstage from a place I used to work, and we were there the whole weekend. And I went to Brian and said, I can't be in the suit. I said, there's no way. I said, this is really, really complicated stuff. Phil was going to run camera. We had storyboards, but I said, man, they're going to be stuff on the fly that I'm going to look at and realize this isn't going to work for compositing or somebody. This is going to involve a lot of rotoscope if we do it this way. Therefore, I need to be behind the camera to minimize the damage to me in post-production. So the only person that we had was a guard who is like my twin, physically. And he did fit the costume, but we're like, the problem is he dies in this fight scene. I said, well, no, he doesn't die. He's separated from.
Right.
It turns out the plot device that allows our guys to get away. He's on the wrong side. I said, well, what if he isn't? And the cool thing would be that this guy who's been just a minor character who has no name in the script winds up being one of the major obstacles our hero has to get past to get to hopefully their escape. And so yet another character became a bit more important. And the cool thing about that is now I didn't really realize, but when we finished the boss battle, there's meaning behind it because you have some emotional investment.
And one of the serendipitous things that happened was that the actor who was playing this guard
Brilliant.
Very cool.
he's a semi-professional wrestler.
Oh, he's a professional.
And so he is used to physical acting in a way that none of us are. He put on the suit, and the suit came alive. The suit was a living entity because he was able to act through it and into it. He's marvelous. He's just marvelous. We kept going.
He's the MVP of the film.
We kept going. Damn. Damn.
Go, Bernie, go.
There's a scene where he just clomps across. I don't want to give away what the suit is. Let's let the audience come and see it. You'll figure it out if we do some B-roll here. But the thing is, so the suit comes rushing at the camera. I'm behind the camera, and by the time he's like 3 or 4 feet away, I'm still. And I feel like we created some sort of like acting therapy because he's a different person having done that weekend.
Very quiet and shy outside the suit, inside it.
So there's a lot of like love and there's a lot of care and there's a lot of energy going into it. I mean, so we're hoping we can finish Soon.
Principal
Short
photography
answer.
doesn't have that many days left.
Yeah.
It's and I'm not blaming on the actors, that we all have jobs. But
That's
the thing
first
is,
for a director.
when
right
can we get
there.
our crew together? When can we get our crew together around the jobs? And that's not such a big deal. And then there's going to be an extensive period of green screen photography and just insert shots when inevitably edits don't work. And a lot of that's going to wind up with fight scenes. That's going to be close-ups of Brian going, probably with his own hand. We'll put a sleeve of one of the go, oh, no. But I've done that.
You did that last week.
Yeah, but
You stepped on my line.
yeah.
All the rest of the crew just put gloves on.
Everybody punch.
But and then we know we did a what I call a hardware picture, but a science fiction film, an old school hardcore science fiction film, a la Kubrick. Excuse me, no, a la Arthur C. Clarke or Asimov. Back in 2003, and so we know that typically it's about 6 months worth of special effects post and edit. This could go faster. We kind of know what we're doing.
And computers have come a long way in 10 years.
Yeah,
They have.
processing.
Oh, there were no. Well, that was mainly just green screen. We shot miniatures, lots of miniatures, a lot of
Miniatures this big. But
fake motion control, green screen. Created a super fun site in my backyard by creating an asteroid. That's a great story. But so we figure about 6 months once we finish with principal photography. I think we've got about 6 big shooting days left, and they'll happen probably over the next 4 months. And then we'll have a bunch of insert shots, and then the fun with the special effects starts.
So, total number of shooting days you have? You say we got
Not
about
that
6.
many. How many have we had so far?
Oh, dear Lord.
I would say that it would.
Probably 10, maybe.
You could break it down in half days and hours here and there. The thing is, it's gonna be less than 30 days.
Yeah.
It's really gonna. The funny thing is, most low budget films are shot in 14 days or less, typically 11 days. I used to work out in LA and just the stuff you see on HBO after midnight, just the bad cop movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So your normal script would be 6-day weeks, 12 to 13 hour days. You normally shoot 6 days, Sunday day off, 2 days for pickups and inserts, and Monday and Tuesday. And this film is going to wind up having shot probably 21 days, which would be, if we had money, that would be like a $4 million movie or something like that, which is still low budget these days, but not.
But you're doing it with the coins you found on the couch.
We think
Pretty
pretty
much.
much.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's called out-of-pocket filmmaking. The idea is you get an idea of how much money you have, but there's no way to say it's a $15,000 movie. You're not going to put $15,000 in escrow and say, all right, we're going to shoot till this is done. We're going to budget strictly. It's like, all right, here's the deal. We have this much disposable income per month, and we're making a movie. Now, we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to just throw the price of a car at $34,000. And we haven't. We think we're at about $15,000 at this point.
Yeah.
Roughly.
But out-of-pocket filmmaking means you essentially treat your film as an ongoing business. It's it has a budget, and you have that budget per month. But there's no like set limit and all that stuff. And there are a lot of people. The prevailing wisdom is never spend your own money. And always know exactly how much money you're going to spend, which is true unless you're actually making films. If you're an independent filmmaker, every success story ever told in Hollywood, involves a guy maxing out his credit card and not knowing when the movie was going to be over. And I don't advocate this, but because it's inevitably going to happen, no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what you yourself, are determined to do, you're going to spend your own money and you're going to go out of pocket till the film's over. We actually have a DVD we're working on that tells you how to do that without going bankrupt or getting fired from your job or losing your house or your car. In other words, it's just putting common sense day-to-day, wisdom into spending the money and getting the film done, and then you don't owe any money when it's all over because you've basically spent money you could afford to as you went. So the film's going to probably top out around $20,000. But I mean that's over 2 years, so it's not as spread among 5 people, so it's not.
And one of the new innovations to come along for independent filmmaking is Kickstarter, which is something we're going to pursue pretty soon. We're
You
going to
jinxed
have a
it.
Kickstarter page and stuff like that. So.
Indiegogo's really good too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, tell me a little bit about people who can follow your progress. I know you have a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell me how people would find that?
Engines of Destiny.
Yeah.
Just go on Facebook and search for
pop right
Engines
up.
of Destiny.
And try to send a friend request to Eugene Destiny, who's a real person.
He is.
He is.
He's
Facebook. He
a
lives.
composite
He's very reclusive.
individual.
There we
He's
go.
not
No!
bored.
Because
He's
those
a
are not allowed on
steampunk
Facebook
bored.
doesn't allow people who don't.
Yeah,
live
it
there.
doesn't exist.
I will also say this. Soon we're going to be shooting an exterior shot that's going to require a lot of people. A lot of
Yes.
people in their wonderful steampunk finery.
We want to lean toward more straight Victorian.
More straight Victorian with a few
But 80-20.
dazzles.
80-20. We want
Yeah.
some
The
weirdness.
accessories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But for the
accessories.
most part-
So,
It will either be shot in the Chattanooga area or possibly Birmingham, depending on which location offers more. And I have a lead on another location.
Grown children, adults, age range.
It's a train
or-
station.
Train station,
so
so
all
pretty
three
much.
stations.
so
Yeah.
full
Families.
range. And
Bric-a-brac of people.
there may or may not be a tie-in for Kickstarter. If you spend so much money, you might have a featured picture as you walk by. We'll see. That
That's
might
cool.
be a possibility.
Clever.
You want to be in a movie?
Well, I will say that if you extras who turn out for this scene, we will take time to get a beauty shot of them, just them. You know,
Oh, nice.
pick the train car or the baggage cart or whatever. Get your friends together. We'll take a really nice picture and make sure that you get it. You know, and it's kind of like those like the Piedmont Park meetup that they do in Atlanta. It's like that where it will be. You'll have that plus you'll be in a movie, and when of course anybody who shows up gets a copy of the film when it's done, and anything we can do is there'll be food, beverage. And our
You want
gratitude.
some of those community folks involved. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Now, I'm going to throw out a couple of other films. I know I've mentioned to you The Wars of Other Men and the folks that are doing The Mechanical Grave, very similar styles of, and there's many, many more of these types of films.
But ours is really good.
Well,
Hey!
hey
He's
now,
right.
hey now. You know,
No harm intended. I'm just joking. It's just a joke.
We just
Just
put
a
big
joke.
bleep across that.
No one is showing up for a casting call.
Prepared.
Well, you know, and
Someone
then
said
there
a
was
dead cat.
Heartless. There was Heartless.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
another, so
Yeah.
there's a variety of these. So how in the giant pantheon of the steampunk filmmaking, where do you think that your film fits in with these?
Well, Heartless is kind of fantasy. Nickel Children, we're kind of close to Nickel Children.
Yeah, I would say very close to Nickel Children.
I really think that Briscoe County Jr. is interesting because you're out in the wastelands of the backlot of Warner Brothers, and you don't see much of the world, but you get the feeling from John Aston that there's something wrong in the Briscoe County universe. That there's more. If you went to a big city, you might see more unexpected science fiction-y things, and I think we might kind of fit into that. And I'm not really sure. In other words, we don't have a lot of repurposed gramophone horns and things like that. The stuff we're doing looks an awful lot like 1880, but there's more numerically. There's more of this, or this thing which really existed is being used to much greater potential. In other words,
We have steam guns.
yeah, we have Now, all this stuff is like plausible,
Yeah.
and I don't want to give away our conceit. The core technology that makes engines of Destiny. We were looking at a historical timeline, and I said, this thing that we think revolutionized the 20th century was really being played with in the 1920s.
And could have been done.
Could have been done. It was the only thing that prevented it from happening in the 1880s was math, not.
And it's still steam power.
It
It's
is. It is
still
steam power.
steam power. And we'll leave it at that.
And we'll leave it
That's
at
all.
that. But it didn't involve
I've
metallurgy.
been
It didn't
peppered
involve-
with teases here about
Yeah.
engines and vessels. It's like, well, we did this whole interview. I have no idea what the
Well, the plot is essentially it's finding out that Terrence Hamilton III, the Commodore,
Great guy.
is selling weapons he technically doesn't own. He's being contracted
He's
to build
stealing
them.
my designs.
Yeah,
Mostly.
and he has a plan to take over the world. But how could a man with simple steam-driven technology take over the world? Because he has an ace up his sleeve.
If I had bigger sleeves. But
And it's a technology that Dieter Metz created that people really don't grasp, but he looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, this is a game changer."
We did not talk about
Funny.
that.
Flirted with it a little bit, but yeah, we
Yeah.
can talk about that more.
What I did in the '90s, I was a production designer, art director on cop movies, just the Showtime After Dark stuff. No, not that. Well, I did some of that Red Shoe Diary stuff, but I worked with Wings Hauser and
wow.
help me, Punch from
Oh,
Eric Estrada.
Eric Estrada.
I worked with Bruce Campbell. I worked with all these like B movies and a very few B sci-fi. So my background is in set construction, set design, and stuff like that. And one of the reasons I moved back here, other than the fact that the film industry in California is declining, was I got a job behind the camera. So I got to work with Leo Ticelli Production in Birmingham. They are just the greatest people. When
They gave us a green screen for the weekend.
for the
Yeah,
weekend, I
that's
just
so
called
super.
Don McNutt is the president down there, and I've done them some favors, lent them some equipment, and I still work for them freelance periodically. But I just called Don. We're in a pickle. Can you say?
He doesn't
said,
sound
"By all
like that
means."
at all.
I sent him an email, and his only response was, "Come on down, no questions asked." And when I told him it's Teddy Roosevelt versus, I don't want to give that away, but
Things.
yeah,
You've already
Teddy-
you just gave it away. You just gave it away.
Oh, not that. But it's TR. Well, all the guys think it's we give that away the first 3 minutes of the movie. He gives the girl a
They have
teddy
to
bear.
watch the 3 minutes.
Our lead looks like Teddy Roosevelt, but he's an alternate. Teddy.
Like that,
Well, I'm gonna-
so-
Well, it's a
Yeah.
mix of techniques. First of all, if you go online to Engine of Destiny or Obvious Notion, or our YouTube channel, you will see walkthroughs of my favorite thing, which is a well house.
Yeah.
The wheelhouse, not well house, wheelhouse. And you need to know that most of those are children's toys. Most of what's constructed was children's toys painted and glued together.
And
Upside
TV
down.
dinner trays.
TV dinner trays. There's a lot of adaptation that happens.
Yeah.
So much what happens if something's fuzzy in the camera, it can be a bottle painted copper stood upside down.
Yeah.
For close-ups, you need to be a little more detail-oriented. Labels and layers of paint and in the costuming world, there's something called the 10-foot rule. Johnny, if it looks good with 10 feet away, it's a winner. Sometimes in filming, you can have a 20-foot rule because you're never going to get any closer than that.
Yeah, that's getting it's getting less true now with high def. High def is
Yeah.
less forgiving than standard def in film certainly, but of course it depends on the film, but film stock. In science fiction, like with Zero Prospect, it was a very from the standpoint of all you physicists out there, it was a very fanciful universe because we had artificial gravity, faster than light travel. It's impossible. But we wanted it to feel very nut and bolt and real, and so that's a lot of. It was all found materials. I didn't have a working vacuum form machine, but that was a lot of like food trays and computer parts and stuff like that. And it's a very lumpy sort of thing. Steampunk is a much more craft oriented. Everything kind of has to be built from scratch. You can go to Love Ladies Thrift, which is a wonderful charity, as well as a couple of thrift stores. It's a women's charity for battered women and shelters and things like that. They're great people, and they would sometimes give us just discounts because we go with shopping carts and buy hundreds of things, paint them copper. But the other
Then
end
we
of it,
brought them back.
Here you
go.
The wheelhouse is my nod to Jules Verne. It's a very aquatic looking I-beam riveted copper interior, and much of that was just built from scratch. So the thing I like about the thing that was tough in science fiction is you tend to work in plastic, and plastics are not always compatible. You can glue things together and they'll last for the shop, but they won't stick because they're vinyl, because they're polypropylene, and they have a closed molecule, and adhesives will not stick to them. Their hydrogen bonds will not break. The thing about steampunk is I'm going to the hardware aisle and I'm getting a lot of metal and a lot of copper. And the thing is, if two things won't go together, it's, well, damn it, I'm going to drill a hole and put a screw through this thing, and then it'll work. and the stuff that I've been building is generally more durable. The weapons, which I built, all of them were pretty much the cool weapons that we don't use. Arthur brought. There's a great story about how it's like, well, the set's half dressed. We got Arthur to bring a couple of things. We almost could not fit in the room the stuff that Arthur brought.
Well, one of the things I bring to the film, beside a love of acting, and I hope some small modicum of skill, is that I'm an obsessive maker. I make stuff just because it's a lot of fun, and my understanding wife can tell you that my house is full of
Here's a
steampunk
steampunk
stuff
bathroom.
that I have made.
And it's nice.
Nice.
So I was just waiting for a chance to put my stuff on a shelf and have it pictured. So it was really nice to be able to show up with a car full. And can you get all that by yourself to the building? I said,
No.
no.
Not at all.
I know you guys are short on time, but I guess the comparison is in Hollywood, or in any filmmaking capital. When you do science fiction, you build a thing and it's a one-off because it's made up of a bunch of different Nernies and Greebles and stuff, and it's not very durable. So you make a cast of that. From that mold, you can make multiple pieces from polyurethane or expanding rigid foam or whatever. Cool thing is, once you've got a mold, I can make the hard one that the actors carry and look mean with, like a weapon, and then I make one out of Skin 8 or some soft rubber, and you can hit people with it, and that's cool. But it's an expensive process, and typically, if you're in low budget, it's just the Nernies and Greebles glued together. And I've worked on a film where actors are fighting, and we've got like 4 of one particular weapon prop, and every time they call cut, the pieces come to me. I glue them together, send them one that's working while I'm fixing this one, and we're rotating these broken guns in and out of the scene. The nice thing about steampunk is not only is everything durable because it is nut and bolted together, but when I needed 5 rifles, I purchased 5 Kentucky long rifle toys from Paris Manufacturing, one of the few realistic toy manufacturers left. And I just go to Home Depot and I got a shopping list. So many bus boxes, so many copper pipes, so many fittings, Now they're coming from all over, so hopefully when you look at the gun, you're not like, well, that's a fuse box. But the cool thing is, it's like, oh, we only have 5 guns, we need 6. Well, here's the list. I've got one more rifle that I bought more than I needed. And I did this. Go to Home Depot, get X number of parts. There's an assembly process. It's more durable and it's more repeatable, and I think in the end it's more convincing and there's more heft to it. At the end of the day, I'm not handing a guy literally
a piece of plastic and say, pretend this is heavy.
A cookie
That's
jar,
very heavy.
an orange juice container, a squirt pistol, and various toothpaste caps, and going, that's a proto laser. Look menacing. No, I'm handing a guy this thing made out of copper, steel, and wood, and you feel it and it rattles when you hold it. It's got some heft to it. So that's kind of the maker aspect of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us on Steampunk Chronicle.
Well, thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us,
Thank you.
definitely.
Thank you for doing so much great work in the field. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
We love this stuff.
Good.